want to tell you all how happy I am to be back in the studio, making a picture again. You don't know how much I've missed all of you. And I promise you I'll never desert you again. Because after Salome, we'll make another picture and another picture. You see, this is my life. It always will be. There's nothing else. Just us. And the cameras. And those wonderful people out there in the dark. All right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
Bonsoir.
Wrote a book. Bonsoir. Oui. Josephine Baker, The Hungry Heart. You just finished the life story of your mother. At 12 years old, you met your mother in Paris, and you were a bellboy.
I had been abandoned in my village in Burgundy.
Oui.
I came to Paris, I was working, and suddenly I did an errand for a lady. And when I came back, she asked me, "Do you love your mother, my little one?" And I was very moved because nobody gave a damn about me being alone in Paris. When I told her my story, she became very furious and she said, "Men are all the same. Don't be worried. You have no father, but from today on, you will have two mothers." I thought that's crazy. It doesn't make sense. And the other side of my heart was already melting toward that woman who would become my second mother.
And that was Josephine Baker.
That was Josephine Baker, yes.
She had a rainbow tribe. And you were one of the 14 or 12 children?
Well, sometimes we were 20, sometimes we were 40 children.
Oh, really?
Nobody knows exactly, but legally she adopted 12 children. And she used to introduce me as the 13 of the 12 adoptive children. That was Josephine. I think she adopted children because she wanted to give us the love and comfort she felt she never had when she was a young girl, black in St. Louis in 1906.
Let's go back there. St. Louis, because you've done a lot of research on this book. Took you years. It must have been very painful for you, Jean-Claude, to step back into a woman who picked you up at 14 and put her heart into you. It must have been painful to find out, to see who Josephine Baker was.
You are very right at what you said. When she passed away, it's like someone had taken my arm away. I wanted to know who was that woman I've loved like a mother. Josephine Baker was Gemini. Josephine Baker was like a diamond with 1,000 faces. I saw Josephine sometime, it broke my heart. She could be so wonderful, so generous. And other times she could be a monster. Like Jean Cocteau used to say, un monstre sacré, a holy monster. I was very close to her. I traveled with her the last 7 years of her life, and I came very close to Josephine. And I like to say that Josephine was like the sun. You need the sun for the flower to grow, for the bird to sing. But if you come too close to the sun, you get burned. And everyone who came too close to Josephine got burned because she was so strong, so powerful. When she died, I just wanted to know. By the way, she's not dead for me. She's still here. I rather like to say when she left this world. I wanted to find the true story of Josephine Baker, that woman I've loved, really like a mother. Then, after she left us, 7 books came out. And I discovered 5 books which she herself had written between 1926 and 1949. Of course, we, the children, knew nothing about that. Having suffered myself as a child, I had always sensed that beyond la joie de vivre of Josephine Baker was a little girl who had suffered a loss, a broken heart. And that's why I knew if I wanted to know Josephine Baker, I had to come back to the country where she was born, which is America. To make it short, it took me 20 years.
It took you 20?
20 years to find my book. And I discovered the 19 years which Josephine Baker erased when she arrived to France. I like to call it the springtime of her life. And as you ask me, of course, Josephine Baker started, born in St. Louis, Missouri, in 1906. And it's funny, she was named Frida. Frida McDonald.
Yes.
What a long way from
Oui.
Josephine Baker, the world
Right,
star.
right.
She was raised by a grandmother who had been born into slavery. And you know, in those days, to be black was not...
It's difficult. Yes.
Was very, very difficult.
Yes.
As a young girl, she witnesses the race riot from East St. Louis.
Right.
But she was in
East St. Louis was rough.
Very
rough. Yes.
In 1917, hundreds of blacks were killed in a race riot. Some escaped to St. Louis proper,
Right.
and Josephine's family, who was very poor, took some people at home. You know, when,
Right, of
when there
course.
is big trouble, like in here with the earthquake, everyone come and help each other.
Oui.
So Josephine heard about the race riot. She was traumatized. But there is not only sadness in Josephine's years in America, because she escaped when she was 6 or 7 years old in a magic world of entertainment,
Of
of
herself.
show business. And she was traveling with a group of black or colored musicians, and she was playing the trombone, which she liked to remember was taller than she was. But you know, on stage, any stage, even when you are a little black girl, and she used to perform in tent outside of St. Louis, where of course in those days there were a colored entrance and a white entrance. But when she was in the center performing, she bathed in the applause from both the black and white people. She married when she was 13.
She married at 13?
Yes, and she forgot the guy. Why not?
And then she married at 15.
And then she married at 15, and she forgot she married at 13.
Did she really?
I forgot. Each time, it's very funny, each time she would take as her maiden name the name of her last husband.
Right. Baker.
Yes.
That's how she got it.
Baker was the second one.
And she went to Paris at
No,
19.
but before that, we have to remember that
Go ahead.
she was in Shuffle Along and Chocolate Dandies, those two magic shows with Cecil and Blake.
That's right.
The fabulous music. You remember certainly the music, I'm Wild About Harris.
That's
That
before
was in
she went to
Shuffle
Paris.
Along.
Of course.
She was the most famous chorus girl in America. She was making $125 a week when a white secretary was making $16 in 1922. And she was really already a name.
She was a name in America
Of
before
course.
she went
So
to
that's
Europe.
why my book is not destroying the legend of Josephine Baker, but as an historian, I have to tell the fact and the truth.
Of course.
We all know, because she planned it herself, that she had to go to France to be recognized, to be loved. This is not the fact. Josephine Baker worked in America at a time where black entertainment was at the most beautiful, powerful talent in this country.
Right.
Johnny Hudgens, Florence Mill, Freddie Washington, and Josephine worked with all those people.
And it was
Josephine worked with Bessie Smith before Bessie Smith was a headliner.
So that's why. Why didn't she? Wait, let's see. Why didn't she go to Germany, or Norway, or Sweden instead of going to Paris? Why she choose Paris? That's what I want to know. Because Paris, she stayed, she loved. Why Paris?
She didn't choose Paris.
No?
A woman called Caroline Dudley,
Okay.
a white American woman who was living in Paris, came to New York in the summer of 1925, and she wanted to put a black show to astonish the French people. That woman was a friend of Gertrude Stein, which says a lot of things, but she was married, she was bisexual, and she loved Josephine. She fell in love with Josephine and took her to Paris with a show called La Revue Nègre. And on October the 2nd of 1925, at the Théâtre des Champs-Élysées, Josephine absolutely exploded on the stage.
What do you mean by exploded? Like she just took that audience?
She came naked with few feathers, and she had a dance number.
The banana thing?
No. The banana is much later.
Oh.
It's next year.
Yes.
We're in 25. A few feathers here, naked, that
Okay.
lovely little body. And she was dancing with a black African called Joe Alex. And the dance was called La Danse de Sauvage, the dance of the savage.
Right.
Everything went there but penetration. Half of the chic Parisian audience, and white American were there too, left, scandalized, and they screamed that black and jazz would destroy the white civilization, while the rest of the audience stood up and applauded and crowned Josephine as the American in Paris. She will go to Berlin, and 6 months later, at the Folies Bergère, we are now 1926, Josephine one more time took Paris by storm in performing in that infamous dance number, naked with a belt of bananas.
That's where it all began, really.
And by then,
She-
Josephine was such an institution in France that she will stay there for the next 50 years. And I think this is the greatest love story between an entertainer and a country.
Yeah, the French, when they love an entertainer, I don't care what that entertainer does, they'll stick with them.
They will stay with
them.
Josephine for 50 years.
Same as Edith Piaf, any of them.
They will put her in the ground like they put their own mother, their sister, their daughter.
French are loyal. They're very loyal. You lived in Paris. You came to country, what, in 73?
Yes, I came to America with my mother, which was in 1973. Here
Your mother
in Los
brought you.
Angeles.
Yes.
I'm very happy. I used to be with her on stage. I used to be the MC of the show.
Did you really?
Of course, I introduced the show, which was quite exciting for me. Here we are in Hollywood, the capital of entertainment.
Yes.
I was absolutely shaking.
What theater was this in?
It was at the Amazon Theater, the music
Amazon, of
center.
course, the music
Beautiful theater. And I remember that night we had Marlene Dietrich, Mae West, Vincent Minnelli, Shirley Bassey, The Fifth Dimension, the first black mayor of Los Angeles. And it was absolutely fascinating. Josephine hadn't been in this country for 12 years. And, you know, when you are a legend like Josephine Baker,
Exactly.
people said, is she 2,000 years old? Can she still work? And of course, when I introduced her, and I said, in the name of my many brothers and sisters, here is our mother, Josephine Baker. She came from the back of the curtain, naked with a body stocking, just like that. And a feather. The people scream. Before she did anything, she had a 15-minute standing ovation.
Jean-Claude, growing up with this great legend, looking back, your heart must be very warm and touching that this woman come to you and give you this love. It's got to be very touching for you. What have you learned? What's the greatest lesson that you have learned from this great lady?
Well, I think that Josephine
What did she
gave
do?
us, she told us, believe in yourself. Whoever you are, you can make it. When she met me in Paris, I was a poor little white boy who had been abandoned in a little village in Burgundy with no running water.
Really?
And here I was lost in a big city, full of complex, thinking people could see and smell I was from the country. Do you understand what I mean?
Yes, of course.
Feeling
Yes,
a bastard,
yes.
feeling a second-class citizen. It's not only the color of your skin who make you feel you do not belong to society.
Yes.
There is many ways. And suddenly Josephine is there telling me, of course, the sadness is that then we didn't know about her life. I didn't know that she suffered and feel rejected the same way I'd feel. You see what I mean?
She had a lot of pain in this.
And she never confessed even to us or children. But she gave me the strength to go to the world, look at you open and do whatever you can, you know. She gave me a lot of things. She said, never be ashamed of what you do. If you are a street cleaner, be proud of your job and make sure that your street is the cleanest of the city. You see, she who slept with kings and queens
And
because she was bisexual. She had
was
all those people
she was
at her feet.
bisexual.
Absolutely. And people tell me, well, she never told about that because she didn't come out of the closet because that expression did not exist when Josephine was with us. Thank you. And since she herself never lived in a closet, why should she come out of it?
Exactly.
And Josephine was certainly, do it and don't talk about it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Growing up in Paris, coming to America, 73, you opened a club here after. In New York.
I fell in love with America the way she predicted. She said they are going to love you because of your accent and your little faucet. What do you call that?
It's a dimple.
Dimple, yes. So, and I came to New York and I opened a club as a tribute to my mother called Chez Josephine because she had.
Did she really have one?
She had her first Chez Josephine in Paris. Here she is in 1926 with Simenon. This is Georges
right here.
Simenon, the famous writer. Pepito, who was a hustler but was a good man who helped her.
He was a hustler?
He was a kind of hustler, yes. But at Chez Josephine, she used to have a living pig going around and a goat.
In the club?
Of course, and a goat. And she used to give the bottle of milk to the goat.
Interesting.
So I opened my
The
club.
French love that, though, don't they? They
it's
love
eccentric, it's funny.
French love eccentric things, don't they?
Of course, and we should not forget that Josephine Baker was the first black sex symbol of this century.
Right.
And the French have always had a kind of little penchant, excitement for African women or African men. And Josephine, in 1925, when she arrived, really fulfilled those exotic dreams of European people.
Right. What was her philosophy in life?
She was a chameleon. If she was with the Pope, was with the Pope, she would kneel in front of him and ask his blessing and come out more Catholic than the Pope. Then 2 weeks later, she was with Fidel Castro. And 1 year later, she called Evita her sister.
Really?
And then suddenly, here is Josephine in her uniform of the French resistance, because as you know, during the war she was very great and was on the side of de Gaulle and the Allied, risked her life. And here she is in Washington at the March of Washington on the side of Martin Luther King in her uniform and defending the civil rights movement of this country. So it is very difficult to pinpoint who Josephine Baker was. She was a Gemini and she had 1,000 faces.
That's interesting. Looking back, I must tell you, the book itself, it's fascinating. It's not just fascinating, it's one of the hits. It's becoming a big hit. How many runs has it been going now? How many?
We are on the second printing, and the third one is ready now.
Really?
And the book is out since 3 weeks.
That's all, 3 weeks. And Times, Los Angeles Times, I understand, gave you a great review.
Yeah, the New York Times, everywhere. Maya Angelou loves the book and gave us wonderful quotation. A week ago, Whoopi Goldberg came to my restaurant chez Josephine in New York and told me how she likes the book. We should not forget that Josephine Baker was a black woman in this century, when it was very difficult to be a woman and to be a black woman on top of that.
But she worked a lot of cabarets, didn't she? Or did she?
Of course she did. She did every. Josephine was really, I like what the New York Times said, the Eiffel Tower of the French musical, films and cabaret. She was from the last school of French musical. You know, either you have it or you don't have it. Josephine Baker was born with that gift that she could go on stage, forget all her personal problem, digest it and project it to any audiences and mesmerize them, make you forget who you are. She could take you wherever she wanted to take you. Josephine Baker's life was a stage, and the stage become her life.
How about a men in her life? Let's get back. One serious man, Jean-Claude Baker, tell me. There's got to be one love. Did she find that love?
No, that's very sad.
Really?
No, she had many, many men, according to herself. She said that the men who loved her and gave her affection were sometimes much more love than the men she married with a piece of paper. And she said, yes, you can say that I've been married thousands of times. And in my book, I talked to her and I said, Mother, I'm happy you just said that. Can you imagine if I had said you had thousands of lovers? From 1925 until the war, Josephine was, well, those were the days in Europe. A woman would show a little bit of an ankle, and the next morning you woke up, you had diamond, a Rolls Royce, and a private house on the Champs-Élysées.
She did get all this from men. Men were giving her diamonds.
Of course, diamond, Elrod, whatever you want.
Really?
Those were European men.
Okay, let's get back to the Rainbow Tribe.
My brother and sisters.
Your brothers and sisters. You still see them?
Of course, and one of my brothers, Jari, who is from Finland, and I heard that we have one of camera lady who is from Finland.
Yes.
When my brother, Jari, is working with me at the restaurant. I'm very happy to have him with me.
At Josephine's in New York?
Yes. And one of my brothers is still in Argentina, Kofi, who is from Ivory Coast, and the rest of my brother and sister are living in France.
Living in this house outside of Paris.
Excuse me, it was not a house. It was a chateau from the 14th century.
Excusez-moi. Jean-Claude, living in the chateau outside of Paris. She worked awfully hard to keep and maintain this beautiful chateau for you boys and girls.
Of course, you know, today
she worked awfully hard.
But I am a man today, and I'm the biographer of Josephine Baker, so it was a utopic dream. A beautiful dream, but a utopic dream. You know, you cannot, even today, it would not be allowed for Josephine Baker to go around the world and pick up a Japanese child here, and an Indian child here, and a Finland child here. You know, it's criminal in today's world. But Josephine always thought that her love would cure all the injustice of the human race. She knew firsthand because she suffered discrimination.
Yes.
Her white father was never there. She had been abandoned. Just like me, she had been born a bastard.
She never knew her white father?
Never knew who was her father.
Never.
I'm the one who discovered that she was born in a white hospital, which in 1906 was very rare.
Right.
Black women could not give birth to children in hospital, which is very sad, but that's a fact. You would give birth at home with the help of a housewife, a midwife. And Josephine was there, and her birth was recorded by the head of the hospital, who was German. And Frida is a German name.
Yes. The skin was very light.
Josephine suffered a double discrimination in this country.
Because of the skin.
I know quite well that black people and white people were discriminating against each other, but what I didn't know is that black among themselves were not better. You had the dark skin, which was Josephine mother color. You had the brown skin, which was Josephine color, and the high yellow.
High yellow. That's it.
For 15 years in St. Louis, Josephine was too light for her own mother, half-brother, half-sisters. And when she came 4 years to New York with Chauffeur Lelong and Chocolate Dandies, she's too dark for the other chorus girls who are high yellow and very precious. So Josephine felt rejected twice. Not only she was still a black person for the white world, but among her own people, she didn't belong. That's why when she arrived in Paris with La Revue Nègre, she was the darkest of the chorus girl, and she was not the chorus, she was the leading lady. And the French fall in love with her for the color of her skin, which they will call café au lait, and of course for her talent.
There was a lady I worked with in Paris. Her name was Margie McGlory. And Margie is... well, I think she's coming now, and I'd like you to meet her, Jean-Claude. She is, we worked in Paris together, and she knew your mother very well. No, that's Jean-Claude. This is Margie McGlory.
Good to see you.
Hello, Margie. Margie, you were listening to this.
Yes.
It must have been fascinating for you to listen what he's saying about Josephine, because you are an impressionist and you do a one-woman show. And many characters of Josephine Baker.
Yes, definitely.
Tell me about, what do you think about Josephine Baker's, what he's trying to say about...
Oh, it's fascinating because he is saying many things that many people did not realize about her life and how, you know, she left America and went to Paris and all. And she was my idol. No one else but Josephine Baker.
What?
She was my idol.
What made her your idol? I want to know, what's the charisma that Josephine Baker made your idol? Like some people have Judy Garlands and stuff like that.
Right.
Okay, what made her your idol?
Well, as Jean-Claude said, she was mesmerizing. You just, and one of the greatest entertainers that ever lived. The greatest. No one will ever replace Baker.
She knew every trick of the business.
That's exactly.
When I came to Los Angeles on the opening night, I was shaking. She said to me, "Come, let's have a pic." You know, that's in the curtain of the theater. There is a little hole. But she looked at it, and right away she gave her verdict. She said, "Oh, tonight it's butter." I was like that. She looked at it. 2 seconds, she had her verdict. And indeed, it was butter. She could do what she wanted with everyone.
Marge and I worked with your mother in Paris. I used to entertain the troops. Marge and I used the military in the 60s. And this is in the early 60s. We were in Paris at the Montjuïc Hotel in Pigalle. And we met an agent. What was his name? The Australian guy.
Jeff Patterson. Jeff Patterson.
And Jeff Patterson booked your mother, and I was the MC, and Margie was the other entertainer. And we had to leave Paris. What happened that day? Remember that?
We went from Paris to Germany.
Yeah, to Frankfurt.
To Frankfurt, Germany.
And we were in a Citroën. And this man was driving like, I don't know, 200 kilometers.
Oh, my God.
Okay, on the Autobahn. And your mother was sitting in the front. And she tapped this man on the shoulder and she says, Mr. Patterson, do you have any children? And he says, no. She says, oh, please, I have 12 lovely children I'd love to see again.
Ooh.
And that's, see, she did it with diplomat.
Oh, she was a queen.
She was a queen.
Très charming. Très
Now,
charming.
is that how she was all
Oh,
the time?
yes. Well, I don't know, because don't forget, she crowned herself as a universal mother.
Right.
Oh, yes.
Just like Napoleon crowned himself from the Pope.
Yes.
But she was 48 years old, so I don't know how she was when she was in Paris, but I know that when she was our mother, she was very elegant.
Always.
She knew how to say something.
The right
she
way.
didn't have to say it twice.
That's it.
And here she was.
That's the way I felt when I was in this
Yes,
car.
yes.
That's exactly the way I felt.
She only said it once.
She only said it
Told
once.
Jeff, yes.
Right.
And he almost came to a screeching halt. He really slowed down, remember? Scott?
Yes, I certainly did. Anyway,
But
Jean-Claude.
she herself was a terrible driver.
She was?
Oh, please.
Did she drive?
Oh,
Yes.
I don't know if you can call that driving.
Where did you get all these pictures in this book? I mean, there's so
I have
many.
been lucky that I've interviewed over 2,000 people.
You interviewed 2,000?
Over 2,000 people.
Uh-huh.
I wrote 3,000 letters. And I find in New York, all over in America, people who had been with her in 1918, and they gave me those pictures.
Really?
And I would like to thank all those people, which I
How
do in the
nice.
book, because
Yes.
without them, I would have never been able to write the book I have written.
Did she like Morocco?
She loved Moroccan
My favorite.
men. Excuse
she
me.
liked
Yes,
what?
exactly.
First, she loved Moroccan men.
I like Morocco.
Yes.
Because they know how to treat a woman.
Geminis. I'm a Gemini.
Of course.
See, your mother is like me. I'm very
Yes.
Gemini.
And you know that during the war, she was 5 years in Morocco.
Ah, she was.
Of course.
Yes, she became
For
ill.
the simple reason that Hitler said no Jew and no Negroes on the Paris stage.
Ooh.
By then, Josephine was married with her first French husband, Jean Lyon, who was Jewish.
Wow.
And of course, she was black.
Yes, of course.
So she escaped France and went to North Africa in Morocco,
Oui.
where she had been before the war. And she became very sick. And while she was in Morocco, she was working for the French underground.
What was your childhood like with your brothers and sisters and at this chateau?
Well, I met them when I was 14 years old,
Yes.
so I was a little bit older than
well.
them. I'm the big brother.
Right.
But the story is like, and that's why Josephine's there, as I said before, a utopic dream, but a reality. I look at my brother Akio, who is from Japan, is my brother. I look at my brother Kofi, who is dark, like your pullover.
Right.
From Cote d'Ivoire, is my brother. You
Yes.
see what I mean?
Of course.
So we live together. Of course, we had fight, like in every family. Can you imagine? You have 3 children, and when suddenly you have 12, 13. But that was our life.
That's great. Jean-Claude, your club, Josephine, on 42nd Street in Paris. I mean, in New York. Greatest city in the world.
I love New York.
New York. Is,
New York is a wonderful. It's a tough city. It's very cruel. It's becoming
you
worse
say
and
cruel?
worse.
I don't.
It's very cruel. Yes,
I
it
think
can
LA
be.
is more cruel than
I
New York.
don't know
See?
enough LA, but New York's still New York.
I love it.
I don't want to live
I like the
anywhere else.
electricity.
But I'm happy to be here with you, you know. But I have to go back to my New York.
Me too.
he
I
loves
love it.
New York.
See,
I
when
do
you live
too,
in New
yeah.
York, you're camping out. And
Well, you know, Josephine told me when I came with her in '73, and before I came, she said to me, "I know you're going to stay in America, but I want you to go to New York. This is the toughest city. If you make it there, you don't need